I love that you come into schools and give this message to a group as a whole, because I think just from listening to you, and if my daughter was sitting here, she would say, yeah, I get that. And I believe everything he's saying. But if I delete my Snapchat because everyone's being kind of mean and abusive and whatever, I'll feel left out because
Mhm.
everyone else is still on it. So I mean, I think it takes guts to have to be able to kind of not follow the herd and make
Yeah.
that decision and hope that other people will follow, or try to get over that feeling of feeling left out. Like
Yeah.
try to find something else that means something to you where you could still feel connected to your friends and be connected, but you're not connected in a way that's on your phone.
Yeah. And so the reason I go into schools is because kids don't want to hear it from you. They don't want to hear it from their mom
Not at all.
anymore. They don't want to hear it from their teachers. They don't want to hear from their principal or school counselors. And so I come in kind of as this
Well,
third
because they're
party.
always getting in trouble when it's from us. From you,
They
it's more
are.
like a cool thing. Yeah.
And for me, when I go in, really what I talk about is I talk about control. The number one thing I want these kids to recognize in their life is that they are in control of their life. Because when
Mm,
we recognize we're in control, then we start seeing the things that are out of control, like that social media and these companies are targeting us, that they are targeting our brains, that they are playing off of our emotions, that they are literally designing these apps to draw us in and keep us there longer. When you start realizing that some of these are happening, but you've learned that you're in control of your life, then you can take power over it. And the unlock, I think, for kids is that when they start recognizing that what matters most is their happiness, what matters most isn't being a part of the herd, being a part of the crowd. What matters most isn't, being making sure you're included on Snapchat. What matters most is your happiness. And then you empower them with that 1 second of strength to just do it. Just in 1 second. Even if it's deleting Snapchat for, I call it crap chat, by the way, even if it's
mm,
deleting it for a day, just spend
mm.
a day without it and recognize how you feel. It'll
Yeah.
change your life because you'll start recognizing, oh wait, I don't think I needed that as much as I thought I did. Because
Right.
on one hand, it is keeping in touch with your friends, and that's what Snapchat's used a lot for. On the other hand, how much are we just scrolling? How much time are we just spending there? Studies show that teenagers open Snapchat 40 times a day and they spend 30 minutes a day on that app. And it may not sound like a lot of time, 30 minutes, but if you think about the way that they're interacting with Snapchat, which is
Mm.
if you and I would if your kids have Snapchat, I would encourage any parents to stand over their shoulders, do a little spying and just watch how they interact with Snapchat because it is as fast paced as you can possibly be. Looking at the next picture, taking a picture, sending it back, looking again, looking, and just over and over and over again. And you want to talk about why our kids are anxious today? It's because their neurons in their brain are firing that fast and they're going from one thing to the next. And so they're
Yeah.
opening Snapchat 40 times a day, spending 30 minutes a day on it. But then when it gets really dangerous, is that that's not the only social media platform they have. They've
Mm.
got TikTok, and teenagers are spending 82 minutes a day on TikTok. And then going back to the statistic that you mentioned at the beginning, where we got started talking, is if
Mm.
your teenagers have TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, and Instagram on their phone, and they spend the average amount of time that they would spend on those apps, then they are spending 20% of their year, 71 full days of their life scrolling.
Right.
71 days out of their life comparing themselves to others. 71 days opening themselves up to cyberbullying. 71 days looking out the outside world and not creating the best inside world for them. And
Mm.
that is the most dangerous thing for their future because at some point, they're going to leave our nest. At some point, they've got to be their own adult, their own human, their own best version of themselves. But if,
Right.
as teenagers, they are spending so much time on these devices, it makes it really hard to break that habit in the future so that they can step into their ultimate potential. So,
Right. I'm curious, when you're in schools, do you have a different message for middle school ages versus upper school ages and what those messages are
not
or how
really.
they differ?
Yeah, not really. They're pretty much the same. I lean a little bit more into some kindness for the younger groups. Bullying
Mm.
is really rampant in middle schools today. But as it comes to social media and it comes to being in control, it's really, really similar. And really what we find is that it's middle school is just not even the tip of the iceberg anymore, but fifth grade, fourth
Yeah.
grade, kids younger and younger are getting access to these devices and these phones. And if the age of development, 25 years old for their brain, is not coming down just because we're giving kids phones earlier and earlier. They
Mhm.
just are not ready. Teenagers, kids are not ready for smartphones. They're not ready for social media. And and I think one of the biggest things we can do as adults, as the humans in their life, is wait. Just wait a little bit longer. If they're asking for it, they're begging for it. I get it. All their friends have it. They will be okay if you don't give them social media. I promise
Right.
they'll be okay, even though their world feels like it's going to collapse in the moment, but they'll be fine. They'll be
Right.
resilient. They'll be fine.
And something you talk about, which we forget too, because we were back there back then, but like being a teenager is a small portion of their life. They
Yeah.
think this is the end all be all. These are the same friends. How they look today is so important, because they need to be comparing themselves to these people. But years from now, all of this is going to be long gone. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I think the numbers are, look, this middle school and high school age is only about 7 to 8% of your life. That's
Mm,
it. And I think one of the biggest challenges, and again, going back to the brain that it's not fully developed, is too many kids are making these permanent decisions based off of these temporary emotions.
mm,
And when you think about the full length of life, and again, even looking at me, I did not know that I would be a motivational speaker. I've been a director of marketing. I've worked all sorts of jobs.
mm,
But if you said that back then, I would have no idea. And so life is about to get really, really good. And for some
mhm,
people, high school is awesome, right? For some people, high school is the worst. Well, don't worry about it because college is coming and college can be really, really great. And then after college, there's like this long runway of actual life where you even have a little bit of money and you can actually do things and spend money and go on vacations and like live life to your fullest. But too many teenagers are stuck in this myopic view of the world that it's just right here. And the only thing I have is right here in this moment. And if someone says something unkind to me, my world falls apart and the world ends, right? And if
yeah.
if some influencer, I didn't get enough views or I didn't get enough likes on my post, then I'm not good enough. Well, you are good enough. And guess what? Someday you're not even going to remember that. Actually, probably tomorrow you're not even going to remember that post, right? Like you're not going to remember
Right.
anything that happened in the past because your future is so bright. So my advice to teenagers is don't get so caught up in the now that you forget that the future is so good because it's
Right.
going to get really, really good. And I think hindsight's always 2020. We can always look back at our past and go, well, yeah, of course. It's hard for teenagers in the moment, but we can consistently remind them and consistently talk to them about the future and setting those goals and what's going to happen as they move through life.
Kids are so funny because my daughter, I'll use as an example, she's a know-it-all, right? They
Yeah.
think they know everything and there's nothing else to learn. And so it is very interesting to have to stop and remind them, like, you don't know anything. You have to
Yeah.
experience it to understand it. Or, I've seen some friends that have older kids who are going through their first breakup and they think it is the end of the world. They will never love anybody like that.
Yep.
No one will ever date them again. And it's like, oh my God, you have a whole life ahead of you where you're going to fall in love and fall out of love multiple times, and that's okay. And it's heartbreaking to
Yeah.
watch sometimes, but it's
I
part, I mean, it's definitely
I
part of
it's part of it, but one thing I would recommend for parents is I would always celebrate when your kids are resilient, when your kids are strong. So you think about that breakup experience, right? Well,
yeah.
in the moment, it is the worst thing ever. My daughter just recently went through kind of a friend breakup and it was traumatic. It was really difficult. And as adults, we're going, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna make it through. We'll be fine. Like it's actually better. And about 3, 4 days later, she's like, I feel really free. Like I
Mm,
feel better. I didn't just let that slide. I called it out. Hey, remember that. Remember that even though it was really hard in the moment, it's better in the long run. It's better now. Like you feel better. Like call that out and celebrate all that your kids are and celebrate their strengths and celebrate it because we want to reinforce with that positive behavior. We want to continually reinforce these positive attributes so that they can take those the next time that they are scared, the next time they're experiencing self-doubt, the next time they don't think they're good enough, the next time they're questioning if the grass is greener on the other side. Hey, remember when you weren't sure if the grass was greener, but you
mm,
took that step, you found that strength, you found that courage to take that step, and you found out that it was greener. Remember that, like we can celebrate our kids in so many ways because they're so good. Like there's so many
right.
kids who are doing so well.
Right. No, that's a great point.